What I have learned afterwards, like about cults and grooming and the process of what it is to really break somebody down mentally and spiritually, and then be able to kind of have them at this special place that's soft and moldable. I mean, they could have written the book on it. This is a secret cult. We're fucking everybody up.
Hey, Soul Family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. I am here with one of my dear friends and soul sisters, Amanda Hughey. She has been someone that has been on my radar to get on this podcast for a really long time because her story is just so powerful and her presence exudes just love and faith and openness and expansion. And she's done so much work on herself and has overcome a lot. And I really can't wait to share her story and all of the things that she's overcome to find her faith and find herself in this world. So to give you the hope that you need and to let you know that whatever it is that you're struggling with, there's always an answer, there's always possibilities, and that you're always being divinely guided in this life. So Amanda Hughey is I'm going to read off her bio because I'll never memorize this, but she is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to her voice. And so I encourage you to find her on social media and just to dive into her medicine. She does Instagram lives, and when she shares and she sings, like you literally feel the spirit coming through her into your heart. Like I am incredibly moved whenever I have the privilege of hearing her sing. And so she is a Kansas City singer, songwriter with a vulnerable and classic American sound, born and raised in evangelical setting in Southern California. She found herself at Bible school in Texas, conversion therapy in Kansas City, and coming out the other side. Amanda has been a singer, singing her way around the Midwest and greater US for almost 15 years. She released her debut EP, Sure as Gold, as of January 2017. And her latest releases of What That Means and Hallucinogenics are the first two totality stripped singles. Keep your eyes open for some of Amanda's most vulnerable music yet, as she continues to give you the depth of what she's been through in her song and songwriting. Again, be sure to follow her on all social media platforms, and especially follow her with her new all-female band, Flat Susan.
Yeah.
So doing some amazing things. She really is just such a incredible singer and has been gifted with the power of her voice. And so with all due, welcome, Amanda.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see your face.
Same. Obviously, you guys don't know, we met in a conscious community and called Fit for Service, which is something that Aubrey Marcus put on. And I really feel that there are certain people in that community that I was absolutely meant to meet. When I met you, it was just an instant. I didn't even meet you. I think I read one of your posts and I was like, I felt a call to reach out because there's just such a special resonance for you. I think everyone loves you. I mean, you just exude so much love for everyone else and are a really powerhouse in the community and definitely for the feminine. So I definitely feel really special, a special place in my heart for you. And being able to spend time with you in Sedona was validating for me of oh yeah, now I know why we were supposed to meet, right?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Just sitting there on the couch and just hearing you sing it melted so much away in me. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your history? I really feel drawn to you because I found my way out of Christianity, and I know that was something that you were really indoctrinated into. And I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about your story from you, because I've certainly heard it in passing, but definitely want to know what's your background? What got you to this point? And how did you find your faith again after all the bullshit?
Yeah. Whew. Any easier questions? Just kidding.
All right, take a
No,
breath. We'll start
no, I'm just playing. Yeah, I grew up in a pretty like traditionally Christian setting. I went to Christian school, K through 12, was a private Christian school and really affiliated with the church that I was at. I grew up Christian Reformed, which is kind of like pretty, I would say like the opposite of charismatic or like Pentecostal. It's not like quite Church of Christ where you don't have any music or anything. But I started kind of playing music out and about other than just at school in the praise band at church. I was the drummer in middle school and just kind of moved up through that. But
Be badass, a girl drummer in middle school.
yeah, I was pretty good. I was pretty good. Yeah, drums were my first instrument. I really always wanted to play guitar, but in school we had to pick an instrument and I just gravitated towards the drums and started with that and then picked up guitar. Actually, I got my first guitar for Christmas, I think when I was like fourth grade. Took a couple of lessons and then kind of put it down for a bit and kind of went into the drums and then obviously picked it back up a little bit later. But yeah, just grew up in a, traditionally Christian setting, single mom, me and my brother. My parents got divorced, I think, like right around when I was 5. And so the church was a pretty big, like, stable point in our lives. We went pretty much every Sunday, and throughout it was just kind of like a help for my mom and lots of support through that. And
Were you the oldest?
No, youngest. It was just, I have an older brother, 2 years older than me, Chris. And yeah, going to Christian school, it was, we had Bible studies and, classes and Christian Reform, they focus a lot on Calvinism.
What's that mean?
Which it's just like a doctrinal teaching. I think they circle around what's the acronym? TULIP, which is like, I'm really testing my brain here. Total depravity, which is like when you were born, you were like totally depraved and, like all born a sinner. So like the necessity of God. The L is limited atonement. So that kind of like touches on like predestination a little bit of like, not everyone's going to get saved.
Interesting.
Irresistible grace, as in like, God's going to get you kind of, like, and not, that sounds like a nefarious thing, but as in like, God's going to find you and open your heart if you're meant to be saved. And then I forget if the P is like predestination or something. I'm messing it up, but you can easily Google like the Calvinist tenets tulip of what I'm talking about. But
wow, I never heard of that. I mean, I've heard of some of those principles, but not in that way. And it's very interesting because there's so much ringing a bell, right? Around God only saves certain people, or if you're meant to be saved and you have to deprive yourself of everything. So there's a lot that's resonating. What's coming to me in the moment is when I had my first reading with Mary Margrave, she had asked me about my spirituality or my course. And I said, I was saved by Jesus, or I found Jesus is my language. And she said, no, Jesus found you. And I was like, huh? So I don't know. I just kind of got sidetracked on that because I was like, oh, that's interesting that you just use those words.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay. So anyways, you were indoctrinated raised in this type of a setting in every week.
Yeah, my catechism teacher would be so upset that I can't remember what tulip means. But I mean, even from being really little, elementary school, after Sunday, we would have classes they called catechism on like, teaching you the doctrine and like spiritual beliefs of, Christian Reformed faith. And yeah, went through elementary school, middle school, high school, was all, kind of like of the same style of faith. And it was kind of always an interesting thing to me because I was always very much, I mean, I was raised in it, you know, you're born in it and it's just like, this is the way, this is life, this is
Sure.
God, this is how the whole thing works. And so you don't really know anything else or know to really question it. And you know, trust your parents and you trust the leaders around you and, you know, the guy on the pulpit. And I really feel like I always have been like a seeker and somebody who was really, you know, into faith and like learning more about God, learning about Jesus, like what did it really mean? And it was around me all the time, so that helped.
Yeah.
But in my sophomore year of high school, I saw this kind of like pamphlet thing on a desk that was for this ministry called Teen Mania Ministries, and they had a missions organization with that was called Global Expeditions. And I saw this pamphlet and I was like, oh, I picked it up and it was just like, go to Africa, go to Jamaica, go to Peru, go to, you know, all of these incredible places. And as like a seeker, I'm like seeking all the things. I want the adventure and all of those things too. So, and just after, you know, really challenging transitional time, you know, my brother had left for the military. My Uncle Richard, who was like the staple man in my life, passed away. My mom had gotten remarried again. And
so what the pamphlet for this missions organization. And I was excited and like really it just called to me and I was like, let's do something awesome. So rather than going on like a 1 or 2 week trip, I was like, let's go to Botswana, Africa for a month.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that summer I went and I signed up for that, raised the money, and then went to Texas, Lindale, Texas. Technically, it was like Van. That's where the campus was. Technically, it still is, but they went bankrupt. It's a whole other story. Yeah, I went there, and then we had like a like 5 days or like almost a week of kind of like training and whatnot. But as soon as I got to the campus, I was just like, holy cow, what is this place? It was like, it felt cool and it was like hip and the worship music was incredible. And it just really kind of like draws you in. And especially, you know, like kids like myself, it really was a place that was like welcoming and, you know, a lot of broken kids from broken families, you know, situations like that. And not all of us. I mean, a lot of us had stable families and all the things. You run the gambit of human beings that were drawn to that. But as soon as I got there, I was just like, wow, this is awesome. And as I was starting to get more into singing and writing music and everything, I was really, really drawn to the worship. So went to Botswana. It was awesome. I wish now, knowing what I know now and who I am now, could go back and kind of like redo it in a way that was, man, I wish I could go and just sit and learn from the people that I met there rather than trying to give them something as a 15-year-old kid that I didn't even really know what I was doing, or like that they didn't need me to come and give them my information. We just needed to sit and get to know each other and exchange the power of like who we were and what they believed and their traditions and their own versions of spirituality. I mean, because we were in like the middle of the bush in Botswana and like, I mean, huts and yeah, like water teachers, and there was a lot. And so I wish so badly that I could go back. Maybe I will be able to go back and kind of like redo that, but in a way that I feel like would be maybe a little more positive now. Not that we weren't bringing a positive message or trying to help or like build things or paint or do different things like that, but it was just, I just wish it would have been a little different, but it wasn't, so it didn't have to be. So came back from there and was like, woo, I'm like so on fire. You know, I'm just like that new Christian kid that wasn't new, but felt new again. And then came back and I went back to school and, you know, kind of fell back into the, you know, I like smoked weed and, you know, with parties and things like that. And I've always kind of vacillated in between the like, I really, really want to be a good Christian and like, I can't do these things. And then doing all the things that I just enjoyed and like what you do as a teenager. And so went back my junior year. My junior year actually was selected to be like the worship leader because we had at my high school. So we called it chapel every Thursday, I think. So we would have like, some worship before that. And so I was able to lead that, which I loved, loved doing that. But there was also this part of me that felt so torn of like, oh, I'm like being looked at as this, ultra Christian or whatever. And then, kind of partying with my friends and doing all the other things on the weekends. And which now at the end of the day, I'm like, it's not that bad. We're just living life and figuring it out. But in that time, it's like this crisis of faith, And then after that second trip, I went to Peru for 2 weeks, Lima, Peru. Again, another place I wished, oh my gosh, if I could go back and just walk there and like actually go and see the ruins and,
okay.
talk to the natives, just like really just like a sponge to suck up from them. So it was all through this organization, Team Mania. And so I didn't really want to know what I was doing for college. Didn't really want to go the traditional route anymore. I was really smart, but grades were terrible. I didn't want to do homework, didn't want to do tests, lots of things involved in that. So I decided, they have this program called the Honor Academy, which was like, you go and it's like based on like a leadership academy basically. And you go there ideally right after graduation and give that a year, and they like teach you how to be a leader for the Lord, or all of the good stuff. And so after doing all the worship stuff that I did, and I just really was like, this is the place to go. Like, I'm going to be a worship leader. That's my calling. That's how I'm like writing music now. And I want to do it like how I saw them do it there. And so after graduation, I leave, I sign up, I get accepted for the Honor Academy. And I spend a year there as an intern. And while I was there, I thought it was the most awesome thing in the world. And it was really intense. And, we did these crazy things called LTEs, life transforming events. That's what they call them. Tons of acronyms, like being in the military. But the very first one we did was ESOL, emotionally stretching opportunity of a lifetime, which basically was like a weekend where it's based off of like Navy SEAL training. They basically kick the shit out of you for like an entire weekend, or for how long you can stay in until you ring the bell. And then you come out of it, and it's supposed to be this like beautiful thing of like how much I pushed myself and how far I got and was able to just rely on the Lord and all these things. And at the time, that's all you're really thinking it is. And then looking back now, I'm just like, man, the techniques, the indoctrination, the breaking down, the sleep, no sleep cycles. Dunking your head in ice water when you fall asleep. Like, I got racked with a paintball gun, like had to eat cow tongues, like, run through,
Oh my God.
dingy water and come out. The first ESOL I did, I actually ended up having to get my toenails removed, like on my big toes, because I got like jungle foot. It was fucking terrible, but felt like I was.
Let me put you through so much pain so you can find God. Literally, that was the premise of it.
Well, their tagline, which is so crazy, and I think about it so often still, it's just like an earworm for me, is beat your body and make it your slave. And so it's like, the concept of like your flesh is weak. You know what I mean? Like it's the thing that's always going to get in your way. It's the thing that's going to cause you temptation. It's going to cause you sin. It's going to make you feel like you can't do things. So like, how can you overcome it with your spirit and rely on the power of God? Which take some bits and pieces out of that is a fantastic thing to learn. Everybody wants to be able to rely on like a deep well of spirit and like being able to access the divine when you cannot feel like you can't move anymore, but not necessarily from things that you don't have to be going through.
Yeah, there's something happening inside me right now where I'm like cringing, like it's like, ugh, right? Because I'm certainly at the point now where I think that there is a divine timing for that to come into existence for every person in their own individual way, right? Like, I was at the worst of the worst when I was like, okay, God, if you're real, show me. But this almost feels like it's so forced, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, I mean, obviously it's a choice to go and it's a choice to do that, but I don't know. I mean, I guess on some level, if we looked at the bigger picture, apparently your soul sent you there, right? Or there was
Yeah.
some medicine to receive out of that. So it was part of your plan, but it almost feels like the pushing or the forcing of that seems a bit extreme.
Yeah. And what I have learned afterwards, like about cults and grooming and the process of what it is to really break somebody down mentally and spiritually, and then be able to kind of have them at this special place that's soft and moldable. I mean, they could have written the book on it. Looking back now, I mean, it's more so I kind of understand a little bit more of what was going on, even though I don't think like I still have this hope in my heart that like nobody there was really like, this is a secret cult, we're fucking everybody up. You know, but I think that everybody there was just in this cycle of a little bit of delusion of that this was the way and the only way, and we're going to get these kids when they're really young and moldable and fresh out of school, and how do we get our hooks in them and make them do what we want them to do,
Yeah.
and tell people that this is who God is and what Jesus is about, and go win the world for this specific form and function of how to be a Christian. So while I was there, I loved it. It felt so awesome at the time. And it was like, I was a part of something that was great. And in that spirit of adventure, it was like, it made you feel like you were at the tip of the iceberg for Christianity. Like you were the one who was forsaking going to college, forsaking doing all these other worldly things. And you don't listen to secular music, only Christian music, and only read Christian books and the Bible, and only have Christian friends. And, really it's like all the other stuff is just going to get in the way. And so there was something exciting about it that made you feel like, oh, I'm in the know, and
Yeah.
and so I stayed, and then got asked to stay a second year as what they call a core advisor, which is like a graduate intern. So when you get there, you have like a leader who is just most of the time like 1 year older than you or the same age, who has just gone through the year before you. And then they are all of a sudden your spiritual mentor for everything in life. And so I got asked to stay as one of those, and wanted to stay and be like, mentorship. I like loved that. I still love that in my life right now, and don't get to do it enough. Stayed my second year, and then my second year, my second year ended up meeting an intern who was in what I did for work there. Long story short, we ended up falling in love without even really realizing that's what was happening, and had like a really intense, what I thought was just like deep friendship. I was just like, man, I care about this girl so much in a different way than I care about my other friends, and still didn't really have any concept of what was actually happening for me. And inevitably, like something kind of physical. I say kind of physical because like we didn't even kiss. It was just like, it doesn't matter what it was, but it seems so innocent and dumb now, but it happened. And when you get there, you sign an honor code of like no romantic relationships, no dating or anything like that, and especially not same sex. That's like a given. And so I was the leader. I was a graduate intern. She was an intern. And so there was that kind of like, little bit of that dynamic at play too, that I was just like, I have to make sure that we do the right thing. We have to confess. Like we have to tell that something happened between us. I knew in my guts that I was going to get what they call dismissed, which is their fancy word for kicked out. But I just couldn't handle the thought of like keeping it a secret and then like lying while we were there, because that was just going against everything that we had committed to. And just like, I don't like to lie even today, so it's like just not my thing, and just feels dirty. So that was January. The semester starts in August, so that was January. And right before Christmas break, we have a conversation in the car. We're both crying, and I'm like, we got to confess. And both knew the gravity of what that meant. So I go home for Christmas break, and I'm talking to my leader, and then she's talking to her leader, and then it's like, okay, well, you guys aren't allowed to talk. So we had like one more phone conversation. It was like, okay, we can't talk. This is really happening. And so I get back from, oh, and while I was there at home, I ended up telling my mom what was happening, which was a big deal, because I didn't even really understand what was going on. And she was just kind of like, what are you saying? Like, God bless her. She was like so sweet with me. But it was very much from a thing of like, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. I know I need to fix this. And
So
I'm
much
probably,
courage and confusion.
yeah.
Like, right? Like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm probably going to get kicked out, but like, I had to do the right thing. So I go back, have this honor council case, which is like a panel of your peers of like other graduate interns and some resident directors that were like above the core advisors and graduate interns. And
So a shame circle.
yeah, pretty much. So I had to like write, like type out this detailed like essay of like word for word what happened between us, what our story was, and like sit there and like read it to the panel. And like I'm just like, God, this is insane. And
oh my God, that had to be gut wrenching.
it was for sure. And I'm just like begging, like, I want to stay. I'll, do the like, I forget exactly what they call, growth plans, or like to like the course of correction, whatever. Please don't kick her out. This is her intern year. It's my fault. It's my fault. I was the leader, type of things like that. And then inevitably get the, go ahead that I was kicked out. I got dismissed. I had to go tell my core, like my intern girls that I was mentoring, that, basically I messed up and confessed, and was just like, it was gut wrenching, man. It was terrible. And like my girls were just like beside themselves, because it's in such a short amount of time, you're going through such intense stuff, and then you build this bond that's just like, this is my like guy, and he's helping me, and all these things. And I had to, tell them basically that I failed. And yeah, so it was a lot. So from there, I had no idea what I was going to do. That was the first time anything had ever happened with me and another female. It was, I mean, honestly, it was like one of the first things that had ever happened for me, like emotionally, with just another human being in that capacity. And so,
huge story. Like, I work with so many people at this point and over my lifetime. And the one thing that I think causes the most shame is when someone is punished for like their natural organic bodily reactions. You can't help how you feel. Like, and it's so confusing for people, right? Because the message is that you're not supposed to feel it, but you do. And like, if you feel it, you shouldn't really be feeling it. So you're wrong, right? You're there's something wrong with you because you're having this reaction. You're not like other people because this is coming up in you, and it's a you problem. And it comes in so many ways around, like, wetting your pants from being simple, whatever, or having like sexual desire, right? It's like you get shamed for that stuff, which is just so I feel like barbaric and in society, that we're hopefully learning to work through now, because we have so much research on what that causes in people. But I can't imagine like that whole process for you.
yeah, it was a lot. And it was just very much like, I look back at it now, and there's just this sadness of, I mean, it feels so far removed from it at this point now, but when I think of it, it's like this sadness of like, man, the first time that you fall in love, it's like, should be so like exciting and beautiful and all the things, and you're just like, what's happening to me? And this feels so cool, and I'm obsessed with this person, and like, why am I feeling all these flutter feelings and whatever? And
you're sinning and you're going to hell.
yeah, and that's what mine was. It was just like, absolutely not, Amanda. Like, this is no fucking way. Can this be what's going on for you? And I'm like, I'm going to be a world-renowned worship leader. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be like, I'm going to stay involved in the ministry. I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to do all these things. Like, the thought of like what we called it, like same-sex attraction, SSA or whatever. It's like, you can't, that couldn't even be a thing, you know? And so I'm so confused. And when this whole process happened with Teen Mania, it was like, that wasn't even the thing at first. It was, you guys are codependent. You guys got into a really codependent relationship that is so broken that you developed emotional and like sexual attraction to each other. And so now you have to go through all these books and all these things on like how to not be a codependent dipshit, basically. And so I got kicked out. We weren't allowed to talk. Like, she was still an intern, and so there were like months and months left. And so it was just like we were allowed no communication, nothing. And then I was gonna stay. Like, I knew I was gonna be asked to stay as a third year, and then I was just planning on like, this was my jam now. This is what I was gonna do. So when I got kicked out, I was just living in this house with somebody in Lindale, Texas, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And you know, trying to be like, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna rebuild my life, all these things, rebuild your life at 19. And so I had there was a lot of kind of like overlap between Teen Mania Ministries and IHOP KC, International House of Prayer, which is a huge global movement, 24/7 prayer and worship based on like the Tabernacle of David, where music and prayer never stopped. And so when we were at Teen Mania, a lot of us would come up on the weekends, make the like 8 or 9 hour drive to come to IHOP for the weekend and then go back. And the first time I ever heard Misty Edwards, she's like their core worship leader. The first time I ever heard Misty Edwards, it like shook me in my core. I was like, whoa, like this woman has something, and like the way she sings, what she's talking about. And it was just bold. It was like talking about like the most intense things that you could be talking about that I'd like never heard anybody sing about. So it's like in context to like Christian theology and everything, it was like, you know, she's singing about like the Lion of Judah, you know, and like everything about like how Jesus is coming back and it's going to be quick and it's important. And like they focus a lot on like Song of Solomon, Song of Songs, and it's like very romantic, very poetic, and like romantic language towards Jesus, and we're the bridegroom, or he's the bridegroom, we're the bride. And it just blew my mind. So it was just this other level of like, I want to do that now. I want to get even further, even more committed, even more radically like abandoned for this message and for Jesus genuinely, and in my own faith. And like, that's the next step. And so one of my friends who had left Teen Mania, he struggled with, you know, homosexual tendencies, had come and done conversion therapy at IHOP. And it was a program called Living Waters. And it was the first time that I'd really even heard about like conversion therapy or anything like that. I hadn't heard about like Exodus Ministries or any of the other big ones yet. And so as I'm there, like trying to figure out my life, and I'm just like, oh my God, I got to get rid of this. So I go to Kansas City. One of my best friends, I stayed with her mom. She's from here. And just literally flailed around, depressed, and like went to the prayer room. They have a 24/7 prayer room that's going all the time. And listened to the worship and just cried and read my Bible and like, I don't know what's going on. And then a few months into that, I had this idea of like, okay, I'm going to go back to Teen Mania, because the next year they were going to launch their school of worship. And I was like, I'm going to help them do that. I know they kicked me out, but like, I'm going to get my way back in. So I like go back and I talk to them and I tell them, you know, how I want to help them start the school of worship and all this stuff. And basically they were like, okay, we think that you're healed from your codependency, and come back, help us start the school of worship. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, of course they wanted me to come back, because like, you know, I'm pretty decent at that stuff. And so it would just be this next level of like, would be a core advisor there and help them build the program and, you know, la-di-da. So I'm back in Kansas City, and then I meet one of the female like leaders in Living Waters in that conversion therapy program. And I still hadn't even really acknowledged that I was in love with this other woman. And like that's what it was. And so I was in the shower one day and all of a sudden it dawned on me and I was like, holy shit, I'm in love with her. Like that's what this is. Like this isn't just like, oh, my friend and I'm codependent and this and whatever. It was like, no, bitch, you are in love for the first time ever. And that's what this feels like. And so then I was like devastated that was what the truth was. And so I like talked to this leader and I was like, I'm supposed to go back to Teen Mania. And, you know, this other girl was going to stay as a second year doing what I did before. And this woman was like, you can't do that. Like, there's no way you can do that. If you're like realizing you're in love, she's like, you gotta stay here, gotta do the program. You know, we gotta like get you healed, basically. And so then another like devastation thing, I go back and I was like, I can't do this. I can't come back. Like I have to stay in Kansas City and, you know, pray the gay away, quite literally. And so stay in Kansas City and I signed up for, I know, deep breaths. I signed up for another internship program with IHOP KC. It was called Fire in the Night. So of course, me, as intense as I can get, what's the most intense thing I could do here? The night watch. So they have 24/7. And so the night watch, you're in the prayer room from midnight to 6 a.m. And so I signed up for that. And then while that was going, I had signed up for Living Waters. And so I was doing that and the conversion therapy thing at the same time. And really felt like I was like, okay, this is it. This is hard, but I'm going to get past this. I'm going to be a worship leader. I'm going to do all these things. And going through what I went through in Living Waters, it was just traumatic is the best word, I think. I mean, you're there, like the whole program is based off of like something happened to you when you were little, some type of core wound that like injured you, either a mother wound or a father wound or some type of abuse, something crazy happened to you. And that like is what transformed you into these negative feelings of attraction. And so it's like the program is like, there's this giant book and workshops and stuff, and you go through that, and it's like, where did I get fucked up?
Yeah, like talk about yes, agreed. Like trauma, sure, can mess you up psychologically, but talk about just reinforcing that distrust in yourself, distrust in your own intuition, distrust in the spirit guiding you. Like that got, I'm sure, severed.
Yeah, well, but it did, and I guess what I would look back now, it definitely got severed because like the whole point is like the trusting within, and trusting yourself and trusting that God is literally inside your DNA at all times, and that like even the whole concept of the Holy Spirit, it's like, what does that actually mean if it's not God living within me and that being the thing that moves me forward and like, you know, my decisions, all those things. So it's like there was a severing there of like, I can't trust myself. Right. I can't trust my flesh. I can't trust my heart and my love and my emotions, because if I do, then like the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. So my flesh is going to lead me down over here. And I had to beat my body and make it my slave. So,
wow. Yeah,
I went through that, and that, you know, even where you're just like in you have those small groups, and IHOP is very charismatic, very, you know, they believe in the gifts of the spirit and, you know, praying in tongues, and it was a lot. And so we would sit in these groups and everyone's laying, you know, like you would sit in the middle, and then it's like everyone's laying hands on you and like praying in tongues and, you know, all these things. And then it's like you're being encouraged to like rebuke the spirit of lesbianism. Like it's like a demon inside of you. You know, I rebuke the spirit of homosexuality. I rebuke the spirit of lesbianism. Like it's like this dark thing that has to come out of the pit of my stomach. And like for the longest time, I couldn't even get myself to say it. Like the word lesbian was like the like grossest word to me in the world. Like I was so homophobic before I even realized that I was gay, you know? And
How
so,
old were you about in your 20s?
yeah, I was 20 going through this part.
Your brain's not even fully developed yet. Like this
I
is
know.
keep going. This is just, I feel like, thank you for sharing like all of that. The world needs
Yeah.
it.
So, did that, signed up for a second semester or second track of Fire in the Night, auditioned to be on a worship team. Because at this point, to me, the IHOP worship teams were like the pinnacle of Christian music. It's like you have like IHOP, you have Bethel music, Bethel out in Redding, California, you have Hillsong in Australia. And it was like, to me, those were the big three. And I had made it in to one of the big three and got accepted to be on a worship team on the night watch. And so I was stoked about that. Really felt like I was overcoming and I was like, this is working and this is awesome. I'm not going to be gay. Yeah, so I stayed on staff. I did the tracks and then stayed on staff to be on the worship team and loved it. I loved the way that we did worship there. It's like in the style, they call it harp and bowl. It's like very flowy, very spontaneous, so you have these choruses that will spontaneously come up and the whole band gets behind whoever starts them. The worship leader will be singing, whether it's like worship with the word, which is like you're just kind of singing the Bible and then doing other worship songs. Or if it was like an intercessory set where it's like there's hard, kind of like more intense praying going on, and then you're just echoing what they're praying on the mic. And so I loved that because it was like this access point for me of like overflow of like what I was feeling. And like in that point, I trusted that when I sang, like more than anything.
Wow.
It was like, I mean, there were different points where I would be on stage and it was like my lips would vibrate. And like when that happened, I would be like, okay, I know I need to do an oracle, what they called it. It's like you lift your Bible up to let the worship leader know that you have something to sing. And so, and then I would sing, and I remember there were a couple really like powerful times where I did that, and it was just like, I mean, people on there just like dropping on their knees at like what I'm singing, and it's just like I'm crying, I'm moving with the Spirit. It's like I feel like I'm in absolute flow. And even to this day, like singing on stage there was, I would say it was a highlight for me, for sure. I just wish that it could have been tailored into the way that I believe now and what I've like the truth that I've come to now, and without so much unnecessary hardship. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then fast forward, the girl that I was in the relationship with, she is like still a core advisor there. We end up seeing each other again, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, damn, that didn't work. I'm like, I'm still attracted to her. I'm still in love. Oh no.
So now I've come to believe, and I don't know what your belief is about this, but they say, or like the teaching that I've learned is that when you can't let someone go, or they're always on your mind, or like you keep thinking about them, or like there's a sensory or like a cord attached, it's that the contract isn't complete yet, right? They're not, like there's unfinished business still, like on a soul level. And so you couldn't stop that if you tried.
Yeah, and it was just like I wasn't trying to necessarily work on the root of like falling out of love with her. I was trying to like rid sin from my body.
Right.
And so,
which
yes,
is crazy because I read have you ever dive any in the Mary Magdalene Gospels that were lost and kept out of the Bible?
No, I haven't yet.
Yeah, so
everybody keeps talking to me about them though.
So good. It's so incredibly good about like, our divine feminine, like literally was like X'd out of history. But she discussed like literally the definition of sin that Jesus gave her according to her gospel is forgetting who you are.
Yeah.
like literally like the forgetting, like forgetting that you are a divine being, forgetting that you are a spirit, that you came here on an angelic mission. And it is in the forgetting that people have now determined that that is sin, because it's anything that pulls you away from the spirit within you, where you forget who you are.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. I think my like definition of sin at this point is definitely that, all encompassing that, and then like consciously making decisions that go against yourself,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
which inevitably, if you go through and you read, you know, like what sins actually were in the Bible, so many of them, it's like things that will inevitably end up being bad for you or disconnect you from your spirit.
That's right.
And so it's like, it's just fascinating how we use those things to control rather than teach people that it's like you want to keep your connection and like understanding that like that is the whole point.
Well,
So
I believe at this point, from all the reading that I've done and the intuition, is that that was very strategic.
yeah, for sure. Had to be. Cannot be at this point. But so I see her again, and then I'm still on staff, and then I'm just like, oh man. And then I go back into the prayer room, and then I feel like I'm back in high school where I'm singing on stage in this lie. And it's too hard for me because I'm like feeling all the things, and I'm just like, what do I do? Literally, my entire relationship with God at that point and with Jesus was solely centered and focused around not being gay. Like every time I prayed, every time anything, it was just like this gut wrenching connection of like, you're going to save me from this. You're going to take this away from me. You're going to heal me from this, rather than any of the multitude of things that I could have just been sitting there connecting with, of just like, hello, it's wonderful to be present. Nice to be with you right now. Nice to be myself and inside of my body, you know? Thank you for the birds that are chirping outside today, you know? Like,
Right.
there's so many other things that could have been the focus of my relationship.
But
But
that's what we're taught, right? When you're in that community, it's literally that's what you're taught to ask for.
for sure. So it was that, and then so I couldn't handle it. I had a meeting like with the worship team that was like, you know, some lesson got taught that was kind of just like the flicking of the like broken tip on the top of the cracked iceberg for me. It was just like everything crumbled, and I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't reconcile it, and I can't be up here. I can't be a worship leader. I can't be gay. I can't be not gay. I can't do anything. So I stepped off from being on staff, stepped back from the worship team, did a semester of the Forerunner Music Academy, which is like IHOP's music academy. And then after that semester, wasn't able to go back. And then I actually got kicked out of the house that I was living in with other IHOP women, because it was like, we know what you're doing. Because Lindsay ended up, oh gosh, well, her name was Lindsay. She ended up moving to Kansas City because we had realized, you know, that was just what she decided to do, because it was still there. It's still really strong. It's still really intense. So she moved to Kansas City, and we would see each other a lot. And then it was kind of like what I would consider at the time backsliding into the relationship. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. I'm lying. I don't want to do it. So I'm leaving it all. So I got kicked out of the house, couldn't go back to the music academy. And I was like, and before, like, while that was all happening, there was this desperation that was like, nobody understands. Like, if I leave IHOP, I'm fucked, like with a capital F. Like, I am damned. I'm not going to be able to figure this out. I'm just going to go be a lesbian now, and everything's going to be terrible. And
literally, like, right, dark night of the soul, like part of your ego is dying that clearly needs to die, but it's like, no, I need to hold on. I can't accept this change. Oh gosh, I hate it so
and
hard.
so much of the core of it was dependent not just on like my own relationship with God, it was dependent on the systems, right? Like it was dependent on what I had been told at Teen Mania. It was absolutely dependent on what I had been told and taught at IHOP KC, what I had been told and taught by Mike Bickle and Stuart Greaves and all of the leaders there, and how like this is the way, you know, like we are the forerunners for Jesus Christ's return. Like this is the way. And so I was just like, anybody else who doesn't do Christianity, this radical doesn't know what they're doing, you know? And so for me, leaving it all, it was just like, I had moved in with Lindsay. I got a job at TGI Fridays and was like, this is my life now. It was like, skirt, I pumped the brakes and like that, like a, you know, flip of a switch. I was like, I'm going to live like this now. No processing, no whatever. I was just like, okay, can't handle this anymore. This is my reality. I can't reconcile the two. So I'm just going to kind of like walk away from God for a while. Maybe I'm off to hell in a handbasket, but like I don't know what to do and I'm miserable. So did that, and I mean that was like a tumultuous relationship back and forth, and I kept going back. I'm like, I love you, and I can't love you, I can't be with you, break up, not. And I put her through a lot within that too, you know, and it was just like we both put each other through a lot, but that was a
first love. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not many people I know. Maybe I think one couple that made it out of all of them. I mean, that's what it is, right? And we really get to play out certain roles and play out our wounds, and it's beautiful, but it's not what we think it is in so many ways.
Right. And when you have this intense programming in your mind that is like just boom, it's knocking up against the front of your skull the second you wake up, the second you fall asleep. And you think that you're like fine in a day, and then all of a sudden you want to think about God, or you want to pray, or you want to connect to the divine. Like it's like you want to try to do that, but all those stories are playing. Like you're dirty, you're broken, you can't connect. You have to rid this from your life to be able to cross the veil, you know? And so it was a lot. It was, you know, after that, it was like years of removing myself and, you know, going off and I guess being what you would say, like totally secular for a while, and just, you know, not really concerned with my relationship with God, always knowing, but there was always this, like, I feel like this grace that I had of like, that like God knew my heart always, no matter what, and knew how genuine I had always been in my seeking and in my struggle. And so that's something that I feel like has been such a gift to me through that process, you know, and I still feel that now. I'm certain of it now still. But so, yeah, leaving both of those ministries and then flailed around, and then was just like, not only did I leave my faith, like you have to understand my entire worldview, career, life path, everything was based on this. I was going to be a worship leader. I was working my way up to, you know, be a worship leader at IHOP KC, go sing all over the world. Like that, my path was set. And so when I left IHOP, it was like, I had absolutely no compass. I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. You know, just got random serving jobs, ended up staying in Kansas City, just moving around, doing different things. And then it took years. I mean, it took a couple of years. I mean, I hardly played my guitar. I didn't know how to write or sing about anything that wasn't Jesus. And like, it was really hard. And then finally, you know, years later, I was dating another woman, and she worked at a bar that had live music. And I had, you know, finally like written a couple other songs that were like just regular ass love songs and like, you know, just about other things in life. And it was so odd for me to feel like I was gonna, because I couldn't shake that thing of like, well, now if you're not gonna be a worship leader and you go out into the music industry and, you know, sing these other types of songs, like you're gonna lead the world astray. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do all these things that are, you know, terrible. And it was just like,
wow.
it was so intense. And
Sure. Oh my gosh. Like you alone are responsible for like collective corruption.
oh, 100%. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
And so I finally decided, I was like, they said that you know, I could play a show there. And I was like so excited, like I was gonna get paid. I was gonna get paid to play this show. And it was like a couple hours and had a bunch of people come, and my best friend Rochelle, she was like somebody I met. I actually lived with her mom for a little while right before I started Fire in the Night. And she's got a similar background, not with KC, but with another ministry, pretty much just as intense, similar background. And so she was like the first person in my life that was kind of looked at me and saw me. Like the first day we met, I was laying on the couch at her mom's house and just like, you know, flailed out, distraught, probably after crying and like praying for hours about something within myself that I couldn't change. Go figure. And she comes in and she was just like, "Whoa, you okay?" You know? And I was like, "No." And I just like cry, and like our like first time ever hanging out, it was just like this like, you know, trauma dump, but like we just instantly bonded, and she was just like, "I think you're okay, Amanda." You know, like, "I think this is okay," you know, and it was just like she's been my very best friend ever since, and it was just this hand to hold of like, you know, an upward trajectory of
Beautiful how that happens. How like, I believe that there are souls out there that we are absolutely 100% destined to meet in this lifetime. Like no doubt about like that connection and how it was so divinely timed for her to come into your life when she did.
totally, I'd be lost without her. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
like,
I had a friend like that too, and I literally feel like she saved me in so many ways. Uh, God in human form, right?
yeah,
Of just like the model of complete like someone that accepts you, right? Like that mirrors like, no, you're not broken, you're lovable, like I love you, you're good. And it's just it's it's crazy how that becomes the lifeline, but you don't, for me anyways, like I didn't know that at that time, right? Like
oh, me either.
I could look back now and I was like, oh yeah, that's why, she came in when she did. But it's an incredible how, people can hold that.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So she's still really your good friend now, huh?
Oh yeah, she's my best friend. She's like my life partner, but we don't do it. But yeah, I mean, we're coming up to like almost 20 years of friendship. We met in like the end of 2007.
Yeah,
So
same. I mean, I met her when I was 15 and I literally like I did not leave her side. I was determined to be her friend. Like it was like she was the good girl and I was like, I need to attach to you.
yeah, you
And
gotta
like,
have people like that.
oh, it's so true. It's so true. Her still super close today. But it literally I was not there was just something about her. I don't know what it was at that time where I was like, I gotta be your friend. I'm not gonna leave her alone. I forced myself on her. And
Absolutely.
and she needed me just as much as I needed her because she was like always playing it safe and kind of like lived in a box, and I was the wild carefree one that didn't have any parents and was fucking crazy. So we she grounded me and I broke her out of her shell.
100% same. I am the lack of control, boundaryless wanderer in a beautiful way, and Rochelle is rock steady, and we complement each other really well. Both Aries, our birthdays are one day apart, just 2 years different. So it's odd how similar we are, but like so different too. But I'm just like jokingly call her my handler because I'm like always just like, Rochelle, can you help? Like, what am I supposed to do? Where, you know, she's like got the details for me and will bring me batteries for my guitar when I leave a show without them. And I'm always like, Rochelle, literally yesterday, I left for a show and didn't have a charger with me and I needed to charge my phone. And I was like, will you bring me a charger? You know, just like, and she's just like rolling her eyes with love of like, yes, Amanda. I will bring you a charger.
So incredible. It's incredible, right? But it's almost like the pivotal moment where you thought you were so broken and you thought that your life was like coming to a close and you didn't know what to do. Here comes this person just reinforcing that you're okay. If that's not divine intervention, like my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, she definitely was. And, and she came to that first show, that I played there. And one of my like other first times that I really ever played out live was with her because she, beautiful singer, songwriter herself. And she had me play, I don't even remember where it was. It was like some like small corporate event or something. And I think actually that might have been the first time that I played out after IHOP. So the other one, the gig was like my first like real, I'm booking this by myself, but I think the first time that I actually sang out again was with Rochelle.
Wow.
And so it was like another thing of her like drawing me back into myself. And, yeah, and from there it was just like, oh, I think I can do this, and I started like kind of booking some shows and starting slow, was still serving, kind of like meeting other people, and then got back into writing music, and the ball just kind of kept rolling, and then it got easier, and I was trying to work on myself but didn't really have a lot of tools as to how to do that. And then fast forward to it's like 2016 and I'm like actively playing shows, I'm doing the thing, I'm like know that I believe in God again, I still have all of these things, but I'm just like can't reconcile the like Christian thing with what I feel. And Rochelle's best friend from being a baby was Natasha Kingsbury. So
oh, how crazy is that?
yeah, well, it's not crazy, it's so divine.
Well, right.
But so I ended up meeting her, and she became such a beautiful light in my life. And then Natasha met Kyle, and they carried on their relationship and got married. And Kyle and Natasha are actually who took us to do ayahuasca for the first time. So I had heard them, it like had such a big impact on Natasha's life, had such a big impact on Kyle's life, and just like hearing Tosh talk about it so much, and I was like, hell yeah, brother. I'm trying to do that. And again, it's like so extreme. It's a radical thing. Like, what's the radical thing to do? I want to do it. And just the like everything about it, I was like, that's for me. Even though it was a little scary, a little whatever, I had no concept of like, any type of like native spirituality or like plant medicine or anything. It was just like, wow, I had heard and seen what it had done for them, and I wanted to taste. And so Rochelle,
just real quick for those listeners who don't know who Kyle Kingsbury is, he is an amazing I would say like model for the divine masculine that I had the privilege to interview on an earlier episode that you can go back and listen to. He talks about his relationship with Tosh and how they really cultivated like a beautiful community back in Lockhart, Texas, where they're doing regenerative agriculture. They do plant medicine together. They have amazing children. And I highly recommend that you go and listen to his story, because he also talks about his near-death experience where he heard a voice inside of him saying not yet, and how he really, just like Amanda, found God in his own way. So definitely worth diving into. Incredible people that I suggest you start surrounding yourself with, right? Because we need those people to pull us up when our depth of our pain can't see outside of that. And we need to hear people that did it, that made it, that actually feel really happy and fulfilled in their lives and making great change. So go ahead.
Absolutely.
Interested.
Yeah, dive into all things Kyle Kingsbury. I mean, the man is a wealth of knowledge and compassion and sincerity and love. I couldn't be more of Kyle's cheerleader. Natasha too. She's been on, tons of different podcasts talking about her story and their life together, and just fantastic people. I feel so lucky that they were the ones, along with Rochelle, like the people to like hold my hand through that, like kind of like awakening and reawakening journey. And so again, another thing that Rochelle took me into and was just like, you know, another pointer along the way. So sat with ayahuasca for the first time.
So wait. So your first, not to say that this wouldn't be also my experience, but like your first introduction to plant medicine was ayahuasca.
Yeah, I mean, I'd smoked weed before, but you know, I had done mushrooms, but not in any kind of like ceremonial setting.
But like, yeah, you're like, yeah, I just had, I'm so the same way. I'm like, yeah, sign me up for that. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll
Yeah.
deal with the consequences later.
Well, and everything about it is what drew me to it. The like, you know, the DMT part of experience of like, you know, the visuals, the purging, the you might shit your pants, the everything about how extreme it is, you know, the like you'll go so deep into like the knowing of the universe. I'm like, let's go, baby.
And
like
you'll come back with your toenails. Like it
yeah, exactly. So
awesome.
and I did. I went for it. I drank like 4 cups my first time and it was going through it, and I was determined. Once the journey started, I was just like, I am not leaving here until I have an answer.
Fuck yeah.
And so I drank and drank and drank, and it changed my whole life. It was I love you from the everything, you know, and it was I'm sorry from the everything. And it was feeling, there was such a familiarity in the feeling of it too, because it was like I knew that I had touched it outside of this before, and it made me feel like I hadn't wasted my life on something that didn't exist. It was just like this gift of a reframe and of like this box that got blown wide open. And it was like I felt in my cells and in my ears and in my head, and saw with my eyes and tasted, and everything was this connection, and it was this grandiose apology from the most divine sense of everything that you could think of God apologizing to me on behalf of them lying about what that was.
Oh my gosh, I just got chills all over. And I think that's it, right? That we are at a pivotal point in history for the redemption of humanity and who we are in God, in Christ, right? And Christ consciousness, not necessarily like the being, but that too. And I truly believe that there's so many souls that incarnated on earth to be that awakening, right? To the truth, just of how broken and how lost we are as a species.
Yeah.
The things that we do to each other and the things that we condemn each other for is like, it was honestly never supposed to be this way. I feel that like in my heart that we, you know, there's lots of different theories around why that happened and what came in, you know, to take us away from that. But I think we are really here to find our way back.
Yeah, my biggest thing, like I was lucky enough to sit with ayahuasca again this last August. So it was like a 7-year gap, which it's so wild, all the timing of all of these things in my life, because it's not like I hadn't wanted to or wanted to try to do it again after that, because it was so profound for me. But the last, 7 years have been ups and downs, and realizing trauma and working through, and knowing I've have this like new awakened sense of connection to God, but still feeling like I was incapable, and working through mental illness and having repressed trauma come up and all of these things. It's been a ride. Addiction, like my lifestyle as a musician has been a wild ride of, drunkenness and different drugs and just a lot. And it's like I was fully immersed in the archetype of what it's like to be, like a starving artist, struggling musician. Like it's okay for Amanda to be kind of fucked up because she's our artist friend, And that's how you get the good music, and that's how you get the nitty gritty songs.
So crazy. Your stories are so similar in certain ways. I didn't necessarily put two and two together until you just said those words, but like I was the broken, fucked up one of the friend group that everybody just accepted because I had a horrible childhood and I didn't really have parents that raised me well. And I was the one that they just like took under their wing and accepted. But I was always, I had that sort of shadow over me of, I was the broken, fucked up one that couldn't keep shit together.
Yeah. And I just lived that way for so long, and took that from childhood, and then not to mention all of my church trauma, and it was just like the label of broken was just like mine to hold, So it was just years of, back and forth, and then trying to get sober and then not, and then like getting into breath work, doing all the right things. And I was really into yoga for a couple of years, and, meditation practices and all of that. But it was still like coming back to the, like, my core woundings of just like this dark pain that was just still rooted in the pit of my stomach, and I want to be really clear about the fact that I don't think that everybody has to find their way to God or like find their way to the divine through psychedelics, through plant medicines. But that was a way for me. It was a really intense, beautiful way. And in a, doing those things in a responsible and absolute ceremonial and intentional settings is the only way to go. And that was my experience. And when I sat again this last August, it was after a long summer of just, again, brokenness. I had broken my leg in Montana when we were there for an event, and had like literally 6 fractures and a tear from my knee down and my rib. And I was like in a wheelchair for a minute this summer. And I was just a mess of like, even going through, when we were in Fit for Service last year. And so, this beautiful conscious community, and I'm learning so much and I'm growing. It was like, still, I was in this rock bottom point in my life again. And just so heavily drinking. Like in 2020, I had a repressed memory of some childhood abuse that came up that I just didn't have any concept of being real until it was made real again. And so just flailing through a lot of things, and then had a couple friends pass away. My cousin passed away, from overdose, and then lost another friend to fentanyl this last July. And then it was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what am I doing again? And it's like, I understand the connection now. I feel no separation from God. I've all of these gifts, all of these things are in front of me. And it's just like, I knew that I was holding myself down from this pain and like, addiction. I was just using it and using it and using it. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And just felt this like root of trauma living in my body still from like the church stuff and all the things. And so another thing of what is so beautiful about these teacher plants is that for whatever reason, they are able to get you into a space and help you rid actual energy from your body. It's like, I am not the person to talk to as far as like what is actually happening there when I'm saying that. But I know for a fact that when I sat with ayahuasca this last time, I did 2 nights in a row. After the first night, I made a promise to get sober for a year. After the year before, I was even, down in Texas with, 2 of the people that have held my hand through this experience the entire time, like living in a house with somebody who is like world-renowned people would kill to be able to be in the position that I was in with the people that I'm in, because they're so fucking beautiful, that I called and talked to Natasha, and which is like, I need help, please help me, and she just said, when are you coming? And like, that's who they are. And got sober there, and then it didn't last. Couldn't hack it, like I just couldn't, because it was this thing was still sitting in the pit of my stomach, this trauma. And in my last ceremony, after I made that commitment, it was just like the big one. it was as deep as I could possibly fathom to go, as far, and it was the rooting. It was like this dark mass was pulled from like my sacral area. It was like this, and that's what I was purging. And it was like hate and pain and disappointment and the belief that was still running in my head about being broken, all of these things, like all of the ways that I'd been so hurt by the church and by other human beings, you know, by abuser, all these things that just came out, that where it was like in my physical body, they released somehow. Not to say that that didn't come from the 7 years of work that I had been putting in before that. Absolutely. I'm not just going to say like, drink ayahuasca and purge your darkness immediately, you know, but
yeah,
shit, that can't happen. And so it's like, it was just insane. And coming out of that, it was like, it was literally the definition of like when they talk about in Christianity of being reborn.
absolutely. Yeah. For the listeners out there, I do have someone coming on the podcast in a couple months who is a ayahuasca facilitator and also can talk about the science behind it and is a true,
Thank God.
true medicine woman. So make sure that you tune back in to hear her talk. Her name is Shannon Moorhead, and she is one of my dear friends and runs amazing retreats and has studied the medicine in and out and has a medical background that can really talk about why that does happen in the nervous system and how it works with your, you know, organic DNA and what your body is holding on to that really is ready to be released and cleansed and purified and brought to the surface to excavate you from that darkness that we're all holding on to. And like Amanda said, that's not necessarily the only way. I've never sat with Aya, and I've certainly been able to, you know, find spirit, find God, find myself, know who I am in truth. But I also did not ever like make the mistake of thinking that I've done that alone. Like I've had an amazing community. I've had amazing people who pull me along the way. And so there's lots of different avenues, but if that is calling to you, then definitely tune in and keep doing your research about it, because I truly believe that desire is divine. And, you know, whatever you're feeling called toward in your heart is meant for you in your path.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like it was a crazy, powerful ceremony for you.
Yeah, and definitely listen to Shannon. Shannon was she facilitated my last sit that I was talking about.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely trust Shannon for all things regarding this subject. So moving past that, like I've been sober since. It's been like 249 days. I haven't drank. I decided not to, like, no cannabis, no smoking weed at the same time, because it was too intertwined for me. And my relationship with marijuana was like just as unhealthy as my relationship with alcohol was. So it was, I mean, high from the second I woke up until the moment I went to bed. There was no who's Amanda without this in the system anymore. Both of those things. So it was just like I had to do both at the same time. And, you know, dabble with like some, you know, mushroom microdosing and different things like that to kind of like keep myself connected, and but really not too much. And then in January, I was in Maui and had another really intense experience, not really on medicine. I was on most of the day, I was not on any medicine. And then I had some, like a microdose of mushrooms later in the day, and then found that it had literally like if my vibration was all the way up here just from like existing. And then it was such a beautiful thing. And then I took the mushrooms, and then it was like brought me down, and it was such a lesson to me in the moment. And so I like decided to do another further process of the commitment for this year of not to, you know, touch any type of substance or anything like that until I sit with ayahuasca again. And I don't know when that's going to be. So got to be calling Shannon soon here. Just over here, raw dog in life. But no, but it's beautiful. It's been good. It's just learning and going through everything. And, you know, I've had so many firsts again this year, of like first kisses again, totally sober. Like where you're like shaking like a kid, you know, like, how do I do this? How do I have sex sober? That's like, with somebody new, with anything. How do I, play music? How do I do shows? How do I wake up in the morning and go to the fridge and like open it and then keep telling myself the steps and processes. Yes, Amanda, open the fridge. Grab the cottage cheese or whatever. I love cottage cheese. So
It's almost like, I don't know what it was like for you, but I would imagine very similar is when you go through so much pain, you're constantly trying to escape your body, to get out of your body, to get out of your head, to, find that thing, right? And for me, alcohol, I sort of developed the story of like, it helps one, it doesn't make me who I am, but it gives myself the freedom to be who I am, right? Full expression, not caring, fun, like whatever. And so I really felt like I needed that substance in order to feel normal, to feel like okay, to be myself. And then it's almost like a relearning when you clear out your system. And they say that it takes about 90 days for the hold to leave the brain and leave the body. And then you actually start to notice how sensory you are, right? So it's almost like reestablishing this feeling of like being intimate with yourself and like listening to your body and letting your body be the compass to guide you, which I truly feel that we are all like relearning as feminine beings because we've been so pushed into our masculine side and so afraid to trust our feelings or to listen or to tune in, that it really is the re-establishment of the feminine qualities within us, that the numbing and the avoiding and the suppressing and all of that takes out of us. And so it really is a relearning of self, of trusting your senses that we've been conditioned out of, for lots of different reasons in society things, but each person has their own individual path with that. I've never felt better, right? I decided that last Christmas was going to be my last drink. Like I just woke up the next day. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this for at least a year because I don't trust myself to not go back to it. And I haven't desired it since. It was like just a moment in time where I feel like my soul chose, or like I chose, like, yeah, that can't be a part of my life if I'm going to fulfill my purpose and I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to feel energetically up here. Right? Because when you're actually like what you're describing, like you actually get to feel super fucking good and super high without putting anything into your body. And that is like your connection.
Yeah.
And it feels so good, right?
Super proud of you, Greg.
Yeah, it's been so cool. I don't even, and again, I don't, always and never don't exist in nature. So I don't use those words. So I don't want to say like I'll never do that again, but I really feel so good that I don't want to put anything in my body that's going to take me out of that feeling that I know it's going to rob me of my energy. Like for me, it wasn't like I guess in some ways it was a problem as in whenever I did have a drink, I drank more than I intended to. And I felt like I needed that to have fun. And like I fell into the trap of like, how am I going to have fun without it? And it gives me this carefree, free feeling. And also like, what would my life look like if I didn't have that in it? Like, how would my friends accept me? Like, what am I going to do on the weekends? Like, what am I going to do when I'm stressed out? Like when I come home from work, like it became such a habit and a pattern that I was afraid to get rid of it because I didn't know who I would be. I didn't know what my life would look like. And the truth is that nothing has changed and it's only gotten better.
Yeah.
Like I could still go to a bar and listen to live music and have a damn great time, but I'm not drinking. I'm having a mocktail or I'm drinking like whatever. Like I'm still Alicia. I'm still fun. I still get up and dance and I still like do these things, but I'm just sober, which I never, ever, ever thought that I could do. And so it feels great. And I don't think that everybody has that story. And I think it is a very personal journey for when someone decides to change their relationship with substances. But for me, I knew in my heart that I was done. And I think having that conversation with you in Sedona certainly prompted that for me. But it was the past year of it like gnawing at me of like, can I have just one drink? And if I do have one drink, how does that make me feel? But then it came with like the shame of like, should I have that one? Like what came to me was like the mental energy that I put into whether or not I should have a drink or how I felt after I had a drink was I was like, if I took all that energy and I put it in a jar of like all the mental fucking capacity, Like, imagine what I could create and do if I didn't have something robbing my thoughts or my energy, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm not taking that into 2024 with me.
Yeah, it's wild. That was the big kicker for me too. I just remember sitting there and just being like, I am so tired of answering the question of should I get sober or not. Like to my own damn self. It was just like, why do you keep asking? Like obviously you're asking for a reason. There's lots of stuff going on. It's derailing your life. It's it's just nothing good is being added. Things are only constantly being taken away. And then, not to mention like the health stuff, everything about it. And it was just like that last time, it was like, I don't even want to have to answer that question. So, and again, like you said, the concept of never again is still one I'm struggling with. I committed for sure to a year with both alcohol and weed, and it was just like, it was the only thing that my brain could compute. That was like, okay, a year is intense. A year is a lot, especially with how heavily I was using. I mean, I could go through a fifth of whiskey by myself, sitting at home, and then do it again the next day. And
I also just want to premise, like I don't want anybody to feel shame for their substance consumption, right? Like,
no, it's all within your own self.
Right. And the way that I look at it is like, if you're going to consume that much, right, and that often, there must be some deep, deep pain in there, right? Like, I don't ever want to think or make people feel like something is wrong with them because that's what they're using to self-soothe or that's what they're using to cope. And it is a very, very, very individual journey. So even the fact that that's the amount that you were using and how often, like, I can just imagine what was going on in your internal world.
Absolutely. And I'm like, be the first person to never sit and put shame on anybody. I mean, there's no, like, it's almost like that Reese's commercial, like, there is no right way to eat a life. You know what I mean? And like, there's no wrong way to eat a life, right? Like, there are just things that where you will know them when you know them inside, as like what is for you and what's not for you and when, and how much of something is for you, if you can carry on with something or not. Like, nobody's journey is your journey. It's not supposed to be. That's the point. I just know that with mine, it was like, so this last, almost or half a year has been this process of remembering for me, and like remembering what I was like without those things, because it had been so long since I had real, other than that, section of time when I was down in Texas, that was like, who even am I? Like, who is Amanda that's not high? Who is Amanda that's not drunk all the time? Who is Amanda? Like, is she just as funny? Is she more funny? Is she just as kind? I mean, she doesn't necessarily love to chit chat after shows with people quite as much, but it's
you mean
still.
You stay till like 2 a.m. and be the last one to close the bar because you just want to talk forever and you don't want the night to end? I don't know.
Right. Not so much there anymore, but like, I think like I have remembered that, like, I really like myself. Like, I really enjoy my meanness. You know what I mean? Like, I really think I'm funny. I'm like the first person to laugh at all my jokes. I don't care if anybody else is laughing. I'm like, I think my ideas are good. I think that my music and my art is incredible. I think that I'm gifted. I think that I'm so good at being a good friend. I think that I'm just a good person. Like, I think that my capacity to love is exponential. Like, I think that I don't have to question now, did I just make out with you because I was drunk? You know what I mean? Like, did that just happen because,
shame. I am so
like, and hey, no, again, no shame, like, at all. But just
I loved it. I liked it all. I'm good with it. But
just even in trying to decide if you really like somebody, like, if like, do I really, is this real chemistry? Are these real emotions here? Do I really feel this zing for this person, or is it like just because I'm in this zone, you know? So all of these things have been like relearning, and just like I feel like I'm remembering somebody that I just met
Hmm.
in so many ways, but it's like it's not this like new thing. Like it's new, but it's like I'm remembering something ancient within myself. Is what it feels.
Oh, it's so true. I heard this quote I don't remember. I think it was from Kyra, but it was life is a journey about falling in love with yourself as the beloved.
Mm.
Right, like you are like the beloved child of God, like your creation, like you're so much vaster and bigger than this world conditioned you to believe. And that's really has stuck with me because it at least it sounds like you're there too, or you're finding your way there. And it's about yourself, right? Accepting yourself and your journey. And I think when you go through the things that you went through, you get to a place and get to a point where you have an opportunity to see how amazing you are for all of the things that you were able to get through and to find your way back home to yourself, right? Like we forget who we are so that we can reattach and remember.
Absolutely. And we forget that we don't have to rid ourselves of what anyone else calls bad things,
Yeah.
right? Like any of those things that are like, oh, that's darkness in you, or that's this, or that's whatever somebody wants to name it. It's like one of the biggest revelatory experiences was in my last ceremony of like literally like singing to like my own demons, quote unquote, like the things that built me in the dark, you know?
Did you make a song about it?
I.e., yeah, it's great. But like really, and I feel like I've talked about it on so many other podcasts I've been doing lately, but it's just like, because it's so important. And I remember like I heard Aubrey Marcus talk about it, and I know I forget who he was referencing, probably Mark Gaffney or some other incredible teacher, but of just like you can't like you have to love your way through your own darkness, basically. Like you can't, it's not just this old, school of thought where you're looking at these things within you, like what I did with being gay or anything like that. Not that I'm completely not referencing that as something bad that I want to get out of me. It's something beautiful that I've alchemized as beauty in my life, because it is and always has been. But anything else of like anything that is looked at, even like mental illness struggles, or like bipolar 2, or like even my addictions, like if I can't look at them and just like shake them and be like, mwah, you're fucking beautiful. I love you. And you've been a part of me. Like, then I'm not getting it. I'm not alchemizing it all the way. I'm not getting the truth about what it means to really love myself. Because myself is encompassing so many different things. And some days there are darker things that come up. And some days, I'm like fluttering in the light. But other days it's not that. A lot of days are not that for most people. And so if you can't look at the things that you struggle with, you can't look at those things and be like, God, I love you too, in you, then you can't move past it. You can't move past the drum. You can't like, it's not the thing of like exercise the demons. Don't exercise it out of you. Pray it away. Get it as far away from you, because it makes you unclean and unworthy and unable to touch God. It's bullshit.
Yeah, and I think it is, right? If we look at, God as the energy, or, Jesus as the energy, like it is love, right? Like, say my name to cast out the darkness. It's like, yeah, that's love, right? Like, let me look at myself in love. And for me, it was the path of, let me, because I couldn't hold it within myself, it was let me start to try to see myself the way that my creator sees me. And
Yeah.
then through that, I was able to be like, okay, well, if this is what God says about me, well, how do I adopt that into myself? And then it came into like doing internal family systems work and things like that. It's like learning to love those parts of self that were created out of wounding.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that it was like a conscious choice. It was, stuff that we had to overcome and learn how to And it's not excavate, it's alchemize, it's integrate, right? Like the whole is the sum of all of the parts of us and all of the things we've been through. And if we're not willing to look at them and meet at least with compassion, for the you that went through all you went through, I think that really is the way, the truth, and the light, right? Like that is how to bring that consciousness into human form.
Totally. And so many of those things, those pieces of like trauma are like the little you or the however old you that needed to hear I love you and didn't. Or got not just didn't hear I love you, got told so many other things, so many other stories. So like if you can then be the person, be the one that gives those things the biggest I love you that you can find.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Because then you're not seeking it outside of self anymore, right?
yeah, that's the juice.
Yeah, right. I no longer need someone to depend on to love me. We want to talk about codependency, right? I'm dependent on that person for love because I don't have it within myself and I can't find it within myself. So I attach to that external object or person. But that all gets organically shifted out when you do the work that you've done.
Absolutely.
It is that way. It is that path back to loving self, and not a cliche way, and like I feel it in every single cell of my body that I love myself with.
Yeah, and the feeling of everything has been a new journey. The not numbing you, the wide open, like even like going through now is just like, with like romantic love, it's like, oof, I, was starting to write a song the other day that was just like going through a breakup sober fucking sucks. 'Cause, like, it's like there's this thing in me that's just like, we need help. We're freaking out. Everything in you is freaking out. Like you opened your heart, you loved too big, which I don't think is the truth. I don't ever think that's the truth for me, but I loved very heartily and very hard and very genuinely. And I put myself into something and none of it is bad. Even the phase that it's in right now, it's just like, it's not bad. And, everyone involved is doing what they need to do to fill themselves up again, and so it's just like, but the feeling of all the feelings is so intense, but it's like, that's part of the gift, right? That we get to be in a body to feel.
That's right. And I don't know, I would, my language is that it becomes just not so personal anymore, but it still can hurt, right? We don't get to escape the pain because we're human, but the attachment to suffering and making it mean something about you, like I'm unworthy, I'm not enough, like this person, like I'm not chosen, I'm not wanted, like all the wounded ego stuff, right? Sure, when we go through a breakup, yeah, it hurts. Of course it does. Like there is a pain there that's very physical and resonant, but the way that we suffer is we personalize it and make it mean something about us that makes it so much harder to heal. And I love how you're just saying that, yeah, like I loved big and I did get hurt in a way where like whatever happened, but it's all beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful place to be. It's like living the human experience with the spiritual intelligence and support from within.
Definitely.
You're doing the thing. So good. I'm so excited to see like how you continue to expand and grow and just leave an impact on this planet. Like,
Me
hot.
too.
Yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine.
So what we're I mean we've talked forever, which I knew we probably could. So we've gone about 2 hours and I'm really grateful that I was able to drop in with you and hear just all about your story and where you've been and how far you've come. And it's been such a blessing to get to know you and to have you on my side.
Yeah, thank you for wanting to hear it. And likewise, it's been like I loved getting to know you. We were able to spend that time in the Airbnb, just being kind of roomies in Sedona. And it was beautiful. I definitely felt like a kinship and like camaraderie there with, the different ways that we've been involved in the church and, trying to refigure out what it means to love God and love ourselves. And so it's been awesome for me to get to know you too.
Same. I don't know what it's like for you, but my new phase is like, what's it like to receive love, to feel fully supported, to feel unlimited, to feel like expansive and dynamic and not put limits on myself and let just God show me the possibility of what real fucking love is.
Yeah, maybe that's my next biggest lesson too, because I'm just like, I feel like I'm so good at giving it out, within like I don't want that to sound like weird, but like, I do feel like I am good at expressing and giving love away, you know, in a pure way. And so I think that maybe my next one is really learning how to get it back.
Yeah, it's just how the love, it's like literally surrounding me all the time that I could always have access to tune into. But it's trusting that again. It's a remembering that I can trust God, trust the universe, trust people, trust this world. That's been a transition, like more recently this year, that's coming into my field, which is super
Love it.
cool. It's like, yeah, I'm such a like abundant, worthy being, and I can't wait to see where that takes me. I'm fucking ready.
Oh yeah.
Super excited. So what I know that you do some lives. Are those like scheduled where we can drop in and listen to your beautiful voice? I know that you're on Spotify. Are you Amanda Hughey on Spotify? Like this will all be in the show notes, but I just want people to kind of grab it right now if they're ready.
Yeah, Amanda Hughey, Hughey. I always say at my shows, it's like hug and hey and squeeze me together. um, but yeah, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Apple Music, wherever you listen, I got a bunch of original music out there. Um, Instagram is at Amanda Hugh. I've been off the lives, but I actually this week was thinking about how I need to do some more, and I have a lot more free time in May, so I'm going to be getting the lives back up again. So make sure you follow me. I'm going to make them a regular thing, maybe like an every other week, where I'm doing it really consistently, so people can kind of put it in their schedules, and so can I, because I love doing them. And then if you're in the Kansas City area, I play all the time. Follow me on Facebook, Amanda Hughey Music. And then my band, Powerhouse Avengers Women, is there's 5 of us. There's 5 women, Ashley Page, Nikki White, Lauren Davis, Erica McKenzie, and myself. We're all in Kansas City and we're all singer-songwriters. And our band is called Flat Susan. So we just started recording some stuff too. And I'm in the process of recording some other newer original stuff too. And I'm so excited about this project. It just feels so beautifully timed. And so follow Flat Susan. We'll have some original stuff out soon. And we're playing some bigger shows and hopefully be touring in the end of next year. So yeah, definitely follow on all the things. That's Flat Susan Official on Instagram.
Susan Official, got it. So what would be if there was one song that like I would say, I mean, there's so many. I've heard like you have an amazing voice and I think it's gonna hit everyone differently, but what would you say would be like one of your favorites, like where you really drop in and you just channel and you feel like the divine flowing through you? What would be the first one people should listen to?
I want to say Oceans, and I said it, so that's fine. That is what I wanted to say. But also, I want to say there's this song. It's called Grateful. I think the artist is Saint Finnegan. It's just great. It's like melodic, low key, and his voice just sounds incredible in it. And it's like as soon as I start listening to it, I listened to it multiple times when I was in Maui. Without gratitude, like nothing really matters. Even being grateful for the shitty days, even being grateful for like waking up and being sad or whatever. It's like being grateful that you are in a human body, you get to have this experience that involves pain and all of those things. It's like finding the gratitude for it is everything. And it's been like the biggest lesson for me this last year. But yeah, it's called Grateful, and it is. It's Saint Finnegan, Finnikin. I would definitely recommend that.
I love it. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure to hear your story and to just be in your presence.
Like, yeah, thank you. You too. Or I also recommend some Amanda Hughey music. Listen to
I
Flowers.
know, that's what I thought.
Flowers
Right?
in Hell.
Wait a minute.
Listen
I'm
to
like,
Grateful.
it's not your song. I meant your song.
No, but he's great. Listen to him first.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we want them to come to you, but we get the point. Thank you so much. I love you.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
All right, everybody, tune into the next episode, and we will keep bringing you some valuable content so you can find yourself, know yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to do the work to change your life. I hope that you enjoyed Amanda's story, but more than that, I hope that you really start to understand that you are on your own unique journey and that every single thing can be used for you to fulfill your mission and your purpose here on the planet. Remember that that inner voice inside of you is the adversarial voice. It is the judge that wants to pull you out of alignment with love, with creation, with source, with the universe. And if it can fill its agenda by pulling you into self-doubt and criticism and shame, then it's done its job. So no matter what you are dealing with, whether that's alcoholism, whether that's working through your own sexuality as Amanda has, whether it is being indoctrinated into religion or into any type of organized worship, I invite you to really dig deep within your soul and in your own unique heart to feel into what is right for you. What is your inner spirit whispering? Because if it is anything other than loving, and if it is anything other than acceptance and trust and truth and wisdom, then it is not of the creative source of this universe. So I really hope that you found some value in Amanda's story and in the things that we have shared. And we welcome you to follow her, to dive into her musical medicine, following her on social media. And if you're in the California area, going to see one of her shows and really tuning into her Instagram lives, because she really just has the voice of an angel. And as you can see, she has a very, very powerful mission on this planet.